Hello everybody, Jerokiah, Tunnel Rat 327 here. What I'm going to do today is just create I'm going to create a photo that comes alive. In other words, we're going to take an image, cut it out, make it look like somebody's coming out of a photo. First thing I'm going to do is open my image. I went to pixabay.com and just picked out an image, motocross right here. So I'm going to open, file open. Excuse me. I'm going to open this image up, and what we're going to do is essentially we're going to take it and make a portion of it like a photo, but we're going to have these guys jumping out of it. So I'm going to use my rectangle select tool. Let me go back and actually create. Select none, Control Shift A. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the photo as if it's over here, and we're going to kind of curve it a little bit. I've seen it done online, and I've seen the image where somebody did one for Disney and created a couple myself. They're kind of fun to make, makes for a neat effect. What we're going to do is we're just going to kind of select an area to create for our photo and make it roughly photo size, kind of like it's laying flat here, something like this. And we're just going to create basically a border to make this look as though it's an image. But the first thing we want to do, I'm going to go ahead and create my outline here. I'm going to go over here and duplicate the image and hide the background image. And the first thing that we're going to do is actually create our photo border with our rectangle select tool. I'm going to come in here and I'm actually going to create a path from the selection and stroke the path so it looks like a photo. I'm just going to adjust the size a little bit. We're actually going to make it, we can make it like a little bit of a bigger photo. Something like this. Make sure our dimensions look decent for a photograph. Bring this in a little bit maybe. And this one we'll leave right about there. Doesn't have to be perfect, just has to look proportionate somewhat, you know. Okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go with that, and then we're going to select. We're going to go up here to select, and then we're going to choose to path. So we'll create a path out of the selection there. Over here in this pane, we'll have a paths tab, and you'll see our selection is there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on that and say stroke path. Now before we do that, what we want to do over here is just flip our foreground and background colors so that we end up with a white border. I'm going to right click this, take note of the size of the image. It's 1920 by 1080, which is a typical desktop background. I'm going to go down here, right click on this and go down to stroke path. And our line width at 6 pixels is not going to be very thick. We're going to make a little bit of a thicker border, maybe say 15, see how it looks. We can go with the default line style here. That's really not going to matter. And then we're just going to stroke the path. So now what we did, actually let me undo that, Control Z. Before I do that, I want to create a new layer here real quick, and I'm going to make sure it's set to transparency. And this is just going to sit on top of our image layer here. I can go back to the path, right click, stroke path, and make sure our line width is set at 15 pixels. Okay, so now that that's on our new layer there, and that's roughly a decent sized border. So we'll go ahead and go with that. The next thing that we want to do is click on the layer below with our image here, and what we're going to do is we're going to choose our paths tool right here. It's a little pen with a line on it and gives you nodes, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to create a bigger selection by running along the border here. So make sure that we have our second layer selected, and I'm going to zoom this in, just control and mouse wheel up here. I'm going to go to select none, which is Control Shift A, or just go up here to select none. And what I'm going to do is just use this border as my guide for the section that we want to cut out. I'm going to cancel that. It was trying to give that layer a name. And we're just going to come down here. I know it looks pretty pixelated at this level, but we want to get fairly close. And we're going to stay just inside the border. We're going to go below our little border that we created. I'm going to go a couple pixels in and basically just trace this out. Normally I would do this on a video and speed this part up. Paths tool or the free select tool, either way. Paths tool is really good for getting your curves exactly right. But make sure you stay a couple pixels inside the border here. We're just going to basically trace the outline so that we can cut this out of the image and make it look like it's popping out. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect again, and if you wanted to, you could use your nodes and create like a perfect cutout. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'm not going to be extremely careful, but I will still take my time. The more nodes you place, the more detailed it will be. So basically what we're doing is creating a specific selection with this paths tool here that we're going to go ahead and cut out of the image. And we've got our bottom layer here as our original image, just in case we make a mistake or we cannot, you know, if we can't go back and fix something, or we got to go back too far to fix something, we could just start over on that image. It's a good practice because you never know. I'm not going to collect this white pixelated area. That's the outline of the sky behind his head reflecting off of, or his body reflecting off of him. But what we're going to do is just select all this here, staying just inside again. We can go 1-2 pixels inside the border and it'll still come out looking fairly realistic at this size. Just keep in mind the size of the resolution of your picture. It'll always, in GIMP, that'll always be displayed at the top bar there. These make for neat projects if you want to create a new desktop background, or if you want to add your cutouts to a new photo or something of the sort. We're just going to go around here fairly carefully. Notice that we're putting a lot more nodes down around the curved areas instead of using the little node tools. And that's basically what I would do with the free select tool. I am using the paths tool just in case we got some big curves to go around, but it looks like we'll be alright with just placing the nodes. If you make a mistake and you place a node somewhere you don't want, just hit the backspace key and it'll delete it. But see, we just disconnected this, so I'm going to hold down control, and let me zoom in a little further. You can see how holding down control gives us that link. Just click that and then click back on the previous node to continue your line. You always want to make sure that they're connected. I'll go ahead and zoom out a little again here. So once again, we're just tracing the outline here, staying just inside, a couple pixels inside of the outline of the image. And here we've got the straighter lines. You can go a little further apart with your node connections. On this curve, we could use the paths tool to create the curve specifically, but again, just placing quite a few more nodes. And we're almost done with this portion of the cutout. I think we're going to have to get the motors or the dirt bike on the far right as well. But we don't have to do it all at once, so we can come back to that. That's just fine. See, for these knobby tires right here, I might actually put an additional node just like that there. It doesn't, again, have to be perfect because when it's zoomed out, it will look just fine. Okay, and we're going to go just below the border here, just like that, and we're going to hit the control key again to connect our nodes. And you can either hit the enter key or select to path, or you can see selection from path on the left here under our tool options. We can click that or hit enter. And I'm going to zoom it out a little bit so you can see that we've got basically his cutout has the dashed lines to indicate that that is a selected portion. And we're going to go ahead and invert. We'll probably invert the selection and cut it, and then create another duplicate of the image. This other image. We could just do these as 3 separate layers, each of these bikes. And they're basically going to be jumping out of the photograph. I don't know, I know I'm tiny in the corner there, but I'm gesturing like you can see me real well. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut that out of the image. But before we do that, I want to add to the selection. I want to add this whole box that we just put in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my rectangle select tool, and over here you can see in your tool options, add to the current selection, subtract from the current selection, or intersect. We're going to choose add to the current selection. Come in here fairly close, and we're going to go to the outside of this border. You can get in as close as you want. Try to put our crosshairs directly on that, and then I'm going to hold down Control to zoom out, still holding in, and I'm going to bring this over to this corner, never mind the commercial on Spotify. Okay, bring it in just a little bit here. Okay, and that's going to add to our selection. As you can see, it actually just, instead of going down, connecting here, it went around the entire rectangle. So what we're going to do is we're going to add, we just added that to our cutout selection. We could have cut these both out simultaneously, but instead,
Oh, and if you shop for Publix brand products, you'll save even more.
Instead, we're going to cut this out.
Ways to save at Publix.
Okay, so you can see I've got the original image hidden.
A fancy cup of coffee. Guess it pays to save at Publix.
And I'm going to invert, go to select, go down to invert.
With Total Wireless.
Okay, so now we've got everything but that selected. And I'm going to press the delete key. We can also go up here to edit clear if you're on a Mac. I'm just going to hit the delete key. And actually, let me undo that. Before I do that, I want to right click on this. You can see it's bold. Motocross 3. We just want to right click that and go down to add alpha channel. And you can see it's no longer bold. What that does is it's going to allow transparency. So now if we hit delete, you'll see the transparency behind it. If I make the original layer viewable, you can see everything kind of comes back. So because we cut all this out, and that's it for this layer right here, I'm going to go ahead and select none. Alright, and as you can see, oh, let me undo that a couple times. I forgot to tell you, before we delete that, what we want to do is go to select, or we can go down to feather edges right here and do the radius of 10. We're going to drop that down to about 5. Okay, we want feathered edges, and that'll give a little bit more realism, a little bit of immersion for our image. Okay, I'm going to hit, oops, I hit delete on the radius. Let me click back in here, hit delete again. Okay, now I'm going to select none, and I'm going to zoom back in, and you can see that our edges are actually pretty forgiven because of the feathering. And here you can see our white line is still showing up in front of the cutout. What I should have done is place this at the back, cut this layer out separately, but that's okay. That's why we have an original. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this again. I'm going to move it to the, yeah, I'm going to actually leave it right where it's at. Go ahead and right click, add alpha channel. We've got our border layer here. I'm going to hide our top layer for a minute. I'm going to go to our path, right click on the bottom one. We should be able to path to selection right here. Okay, that makes sure that we got exactly what we need. And I'm going to go back down to this layer that we just added. Okay, I'm going to hide the background layer. I'm going to go to this layer right here that we just added. And I'm going to invert the selection. And then I'm going to hit the delete key again. Move this up a layer. Actually, I'm going to leave that right there because that leaves our border on it. We're going to select none. Okay. And I'm going to move this layer, make this layer visible again. And what we want to do is complete our cutout of the bicycle, but just inside the borders. So I'm going to bring the border up again, and this time what I'm going to do is go back to our path tool, right click, path to selection once again. And what I need to do is we made that a 6 pixel stroke, so I'm going to select, shrink by 6 pixels. Okay. And I'm just going to go back to our layers tab here. Make sure that we have the layer with the motorcycle selected. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have shrunk that. Undo the shrink. I'm going to delete this entire thing, so it's just the motorcycle kind of coming out. Okay, I'm going to hide the layer behind it. I'm going to hide our border layer, and here you can see that it's actually got the motorcycle in it still. What we need to do with this layer right here, because I goofed up and I didn't do that from the beginning, I'm going to go ahead and take this layer. I'm going to cut out the rest of the motorcycle that we need. Basically 6 pixels in. So I'm going to shrink our selection anyway. 6 pixels. And now I know that I need to cut out this portion from this layer right here. I'm going to go ahead and invert, select, invert. I'm going to actually invert that selection. No, I'm not. Undo. Take my pass tool again. What I'm going to do is actually take this section starting from right about here, because that's where our border starts, and I'm just going to create another cutout and add it to that layer. Right here, just go down to here, and we're just going to go ahead and add that to the layer that we just took out. There's a number of ways to do things in GIMP. Especially if you kind of goof up, it happens. I mean, when I'm preparing a tutorial, obviously I will cut through the parts that aren't necessary. But I'm not going to cut out this whole image this time. I'm just going to go to here, connect this right here. Now that that's connected, I'm going to actually select none. And then I'm going to go selection from path here. And I'm going to do a cut. So I'm actually going to, or a copy, edit, copy, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to say edit, paste as, new layer, and there you have that little section that we just cut out. So I'm going to hit M for the move tool, or I'll just click on it, and I'm going to hide this layer and this layer behind it, so all we have is this one. And since it's still selected, take our new clipboard layer, and I'm going to move that right down to where our selection was. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can line it up perfectly. And you can use your up and left and right arrows on your keyboard to make sure that you get it exactly where you want it. And that looks pretty much right on right here. Just make sure you go up and down a little bit, see if it looks like it needs to drop. And just to make sure, I'm going to bring back this layer here. Make sure it lines up perfectly. Hide the clipboard layer for a moment. Bring the clipboard layer back, and you can see that it actually does line up perfectly. So what I want to do is actually merge this motocross layer down. On top of that, we're going to Control Shift A, select none. We're going to bring our border layer back and just drop the border layer below the motorcycle. And there you can see we now have the effect that the motorcycle is in fact jumping out of this image. Now to add the rest of them, that's why we have our original layer back here. Okay, we can use the eyeball to hide it. And what we're going to do is we're going to create another duplicate of this. So duplicate. I'm going to hide that again. What I should have done is actually I'm going to right click and add an alpha channel to our original. Whoops. Add alpha channel to the original, and I'm also going to add an alpha channel to the duplicate that we just made. We could do a layer mask, but that's another way to do things is do some editing and like cutouts and stuff is with layer masks. We can get into that. I don't know if we will this tutorial, but And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just drag this above that border layer like that. Actually, I want it right below it for now. And so now when we cut it out, when we cut out the next motorcycle, we're actually just going to come, again, once right below this line here. And we're basically just cutting out this motorcycle. So I'll hide that layer. Okay. And then I'm actually going to hide all these layers I'm not using minus the clipboard. I'm going to select this layer. I'm going to bring this back up just for a reference. So we're on our new duplicate right here. Again, with the pass tool, we're going to cut out this motorcycle. We'll cut out this one last, but I'm going to put them each on their own layer so we can also move them around if we wanted to. I'm going to come down here. I'm actually just going to start right below this line, and I'm going to zoom in a little further. And I'm just going to come up just like this here. Actually, let me hide that real quick. It's just a reference basically to see where we need to start. You can hide it and bring it back up as you need. But I want to make sure I get it about as accurate as possible, even on the knobs on the tires here. So we'll go ahead, and it's going to take a minute to get this path cut out. I really wish I could fast forward this portion for people who aren't following along, you know. But this will be available on my Twitch channel as well as my YouTube channel. And I'm not sure if Stream.me saves these. That's a new platform I'm using. I use Restream.io to broadcast to multiple platforms like Twitch and YouTube and Stream.me. I may in the future add more platforms, and I'm just going to use my mouse wheel or push down on my mouse wheel to move the picture around. But again, I'm not going to be 100% perfect with this. That's okay if you go inside a couple pixels, you miss some jutting areas. That's why we use the feather selection, so that it kind of doesn't make it sharp cuts. It'll actually smooth it out a little bit. Copulate, I guess it would be considered, something like that. So we're just gonna go around, and I know I've been streaming a lot of different things. I stream some gaming, and I really enjoy the GIMP stuff. And I know that GIMP is one of those tools that's not 100% user-friendly, and you kind of have to play with it to figure some things out. There's plenty of tutorials online that you can just follow along and figure out how to use certain things. So I definitely recommend, if you're interested in creating graphic images or editing photos, that you take a look at some of the tutorials available, because it really isn't that difficult. It's more time consuming than anything. Excuse my phone. It's more time consuming than anything, really, but it is nice. It's almost like cutting the grass, where you get to kind of see your results immediately. You know, it's a satisfying thing to create or edit photography or designs or graphic images. I've played around with GIF images for banners, for all kinds of stuff. And the white part on his helmet blends pretty well with the sky, so you don't have to be exactly perfect with it. You just want to get the general shape. Sometimes you'll run into low contrast borders, and right here I'm actually going to bring this in. You run into some low contrast borders where it's kind of hard to tell where one starts and another ends, especially in dark photographs with dark hair or dark jackets. Just kind of do the best you can to get a feel for where your outline should be. And I've got Steam flashing for an update. It's okay. Try to keep this tutorial fairly short. It really won't take that long. The most time-consuming portion of doing this type of photo editing is the cutting out the images. The rest of it goes pretty quickly. So once we have this bike and the next bike cut out, Again, you can see that I'm not being completely perfect around the edges. That's okay. It will still look, it will still give the effect that we're going for, where he's jumping out of a photograph once it's complete. And we're just basically going to be pasting the other guy in the air outside of the border completely, as though he jumped out of the photo. I got this image again from pixabay.com, Pixabay. There are plenty of royalty-free image sites like that. So if you're looking, you can use your own photographs just as easily too. This part right here we'll cut out later, where the sky's kind of between his foot and the peg there. We'll cut that out later once we have this all sorted out. I'm actually going to bring this back a little bit. I'm trying to get these knobs. This is where you'll add quite a few more nodes. Don't worry if you make mistakes. Just be patient. Take your time with it. I'm not going completely out for all of these back here, but that's okay. We're just about there. What I'm going to do is bring this back. I may have even, nope, not quite there yet. Bring that border back. Since that layer is above this layer, it doesn't really matter if we are cutting through it. I will hide it once again to find out exactly where the tire goes behind it. I mean in front of it. So it's an illusion. I mean, that's the thing with layering with image editing software like this, with GIMP, with Photoshop, with maybe even Inkscape, that you can create illusions using the layers. I'm going to hide this one more time.
It's Ryobi days at the Home Depot, where the best prices on
and we're going to listen to another Spotify commercial.
Like
I really hope
Ryobi
that
1+
YouTube
battery
does not
kit 2-pack,
block
just
this.
99 bucks. 2 high-performance batteries, a charger,
Mute
bag,
the
plus
video
your choice of a free
for
select cordless Ryobi
playing
1+
Spotify,
tool
but it
for
is
the world's
possible.
largest
I'm already
18-volt tool
demonetized
system.
there.
And you can't beat
If you're
free.
watching on YouTube,
Ryobi
it's
Day
a
savings.
demonetized
In-store
channel,
or
but
online
it's
at the
okay.
Home Depot. More saving, more doing. Valid through June 20th at participating
So we need to
stores.
bring our
Based on
border
Sunday
back
style
again.
batteries,
We got to
seasonal
cut out
conditions,
all this right
restrictions.
here, and then we're going to
What does the
reconnect it
car
right
of
around
tomorrow
here.
Look like? More exciting.
So let me
more
hide that layer
sustainable.
once again.
An electrifying drive, rain or shine, and smart enough to act before others.
Bear
think.
with me through the commercials,
BMW,
folks. I can
the
get rid of
future is
Spotify. If you
now.
want, I actually
Take a
do have the
BMW
chat open and I've got
i3,
alerts up.
the 530i performance
Uh,
test drive.
Let
and
me look here.
experience
Hey,
the cars of
Marshall,
tomorrow.
24, how you doing?
Electric powered.
Good to
and
see
more
you. I'm sorry I
exhilarating
did
than
not
BMW,
notice
the
your
ultimate
chat
driving
message
machine.
sooner.
If you hear this,
I've got alerts set up for
and lots of this,
certain things on
must be a
OBS,
fighter watching Action Point.
but not for chat messages, so I do have to look, and I apologize if it takes me a minute to get to it when I'm doing these cutouts and stuff. It is kind of does take my attention away from the other screen for a moment, but I will get back to you. I wish I would have shown you a finished product of something similar I did. I'm actually going to cut that little section out later too. We're just going to connect it right here at the tire. But you'll see what the finished product looks like. It won't take too long to do this, and plus I can keep this video posted on that channel on like Twitch and YouTube so that you can reference it at any time. Alright, this is where we're going to finish up right here. Connect our border. Connect that. I'm going to zoom out so you get an idea. That's a lot of nodes right there. Now we're going to bring our layer back so you can see. There it is. And we're just going to hit selection from path or hit enter. We're going to invert, go to select, invert. Okay, and once again we're just going to hit the delete key. So that got rid of that. That's why we keep our original layer, to keep duplicates. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this right up above the border. I'm going to select none. I'm going to choose a different tool like the move tool or something, just so you can see. Obviously we have to cut out between the spokes. I'll probably use the free select tool for that. And we also have to cut out between his arm here and his foot here. But if we bring back this layer, You can see that so far it's starting to come together where the two motorcycles are jumping out of the photograph. And what we're going to do, let me just check something real quick here. Alright, I wanted to make sure that my stream was in fact connected. So the next thing we got to do is we got to cut out this third bicycle, or this third dirt bike. And what I want to do is I'm just going to, once again, click that layer, create a duplicate. I'm going to hide the original layer at the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and move this layer right below our border line here. We don't actually need to keep it below the borderline. It doesn't matter where it goes. We can put it right above it, right below it. So I'm going to hide the borderline. I'm going to hide the other background. I'm going to hide both of the other bikes so that all we have selected is this layer. Go ahead and zoom in. I'm going to use... I'll go ahead and use the pass tool again. I was going to use the free select tool, but it really doesn't matter. This time we're going to cut out the entire dirt bike, and as soon as we get this thing cut out, you always want to make sure that you have the correct layer selected too. It's called your active layer. It'll be highlighted when it's selected. But we're going to go ahead and just cut out this dirt bike here. Got a bunch of little knobs in the tire. I know it's really pixelated at this zoom level. That's okay. The more detail, the better. And it can be hard to distinguish. You can see how the pictures, or I mean the pixels kind of mash up. And I guess I forgot to feather their last selection, but it should be okay. Let's bring that in a little bit. Just staying just inside the border. You don't want to get completely the outside edge, because that's gonna create the wrong effect, and it just won't look right. You might pick up pieces of the background, and we're not really going for that when we're trying to crop an image. Okay, again, I'm just holding down my mouse wheel and sliding left and right to move on my mouse. Let me just check something real quick here on my stream. Okay. Good shape, good shape. Continuing on. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. If you take your time and if you put as many nodes in as possible, you're going to get a better result than if you were to put just a few and be real sloppy with it. So don't get in a hurry when you're using GIMP. Your results will be worth taking the time. They'll show, you know, that the quality will be much better when you take your time. I still have to go back through and cut out the portions, like this portion will have to be cut out, where the sky shows through between his elbow and and his torso there. His, hers, I'm not sure. I think it's a he, yeah. You can apply this technique to any image you want to cut out, say, especially for people. That's the most common thing to cut out. You just use your pass tool or your free select tool, and you take your time, go around the edges, try to get the basic shape at the least. There's a weird design on that helmet right there. We might actually bring these out just a touch because it kind of blends with the sky right there, just to maintain our shape. You can see where the purple kind of blends with the sky here. We're going to try to maintain our shape right there. And we're going to come just inside this white section. Once we feather it, it will look better. So, and feathering basically just, it decreases the sharpness of the edges. Kind of brings it in a little bit and breaks it up, which is always good for added realism. Again, where you see the white right where it blends with the sky here, the white is actually the reflection on the edge of his clothing from the sky. Okay, just coming down here. We're going to actually cut this little portion out too. We'll come back to that if we remember. Once we have all these cut out, we're going to go ahead and save our image. Make sure we save our progress frequently so we don't have to start from scratch. Especially if it's a time-consuming project like this. And once again, we're skipping this little section here. We may not even have to cut that out. We'll just have to see what it looks like. Keeping in mind our image is 1920 pixels wide by 1080 pixels tall. So any little details like this, we are down to the pixel level right now. We are zoomed in pretty good at 800%. You can always tell your zoom level down here in this box, and you can actually click on that drop down to select a preset zoom level. Not a whole lot of reasons to get zoomed in this far unless you are, you know, doing something like specific paths and things like that, like we're doing now. Trying to get as much detail in there as possible. Go ahead and pull up my chat on my mobile as well. Hope that you're enjoying the music and it is pleasant, minus the ads that are boisterous. Now keep in mind, this one is outside of our photo border that we're creating. So we need to cut out the entire dirt bike, which it looks like we're getting close to completion here. That's good. It's always exciting to get all your cropping and cutting out done. Okay, once again, holding down the control key to connect our link there. We're going to go ahead and selection from path. I'm going to zoom this out again. You can also press 1 on your keyboard to get straight out to 100%. Just a little tip there. Let's not forget to feather our selections. We're going to go up here to select, choose feather, press OK at 5 pixels, that's fine. And we'll go ahead and invert the selection there. So now if we zoom out a little further, you should see the selection also around the border of the image. Go ahead and hit the delete key. We're going to Control Shift A or select none. I'm going to hit M to choose the move tool and get rid of those path nodes there. And we're going to go ahead and bring back all of our layers. As you can see, here's what we've cut out. We actually forgot to feather the selection here. So you can notice a little bit of a difference. How this one's feathered and this one is not. That's something that we should have done and didn't, but that's okay. So before we continue, let me go ahead and bring back our border layer as well as our image layer there. You can see that they kind of look like they're jumping out of the photograph now. Now, if we want to bring back our original layer real quick, original image, we can see if there's more elements like birds flying or something like that up in the sky. We could also cut those out for added depth. We could cut out a rock, a little bit of water. But what we're going to do is just leave it with the 3 motorcycles for now, 3 dirt bikes. And we're just going to go into detail with each one, making sure that we cut out everything that needs to be cut out of it. So I'm going to just hide my other layers. Come back in here, and I'm going to use the free select tool this time. Just come in here, get real close, anywhere there's sky. Once again, we're staying just inside the border of the actual image. Now, a trick with the free select tool is you can actually hold it down, and it'll create your line there. Or you can just go ahead and create nodes like we've done with the pathing tool. The free select tool may be a little easier for you to use, and you don't have to hit control, you just connect it, it automatically creates a selection. We're just going to hit delete there. We're going to move up Back this out a little bit, see where the next section is that we need to cut out. Right here between the brake cable and his arm, and then right here in his elbow, we're going to cut this out. We're just going to stay right along here. Just a couple pixels inside the border, 1 or 2 pixels, that's fine. I did not feather the last one. It's one thing. It's a good thing to remember. Just hit select feather, okay. Hit our delete key, and then zoom out. You can see the difference there. How it kind of takes partial pixels and keeps the blend. Zoom back in over here. We're going to do the same thing. Basically, stay along the cable line. Come just inside here, and just connect it there. We probably don't have to feather this one, but we're going to do it anyway. Alright, delete key. Again, right here. Let's zoom out and see. Yeah, right here between the actual handle or the brake and his hand. We're just going to take this section. Again, I'm using control and mouse wheel to zoom. We'll go ahead and feather that. Hit delete. Zoom out. You can see it kind of took from all of those there. Nice effect. Get a little perspective, move it around. What else do we need to cut out? It actually looks like that's all we're going to need from that one. So we can go ahead and Control Shift A, select none, select our next layer, hide this one. Let's go ahead and start getting rid of the sky between the spokes here and between his foot. Go ahead and start here. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and take all this out. We'll go ahead and keep the white here. It's really the sky that we're trying to get rid of. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're zoomed in pretty far there, over 1100%. So let me go ahead and feather that selection. Okay, delete key. Oh, I did not have it selected, did I? I'm going to edit, undo the clear because I think we just deleted the wrong layer. Make sure that you have the layer that you're working on selected. Hit the delete key. Okay. Come down here and start working on these spokes. All these green sections right here, that's actually the water behind them. If you bring back your original image, you can see that that's from the water. So we want to get rid of that too, and we want to get rid of this right here. Let me just create a selection and undo that. Control C. So we're going to get rid of this here too, between the brake cable and his handlebars here. Go ahead and feather that one as well.
It's Ryobi days at the Home Depot, where the best prices on
mind the
Ryobi tools come out to play. Like a Ryobi One Plus battery kit
Sorry
2-pack,
about
just
that.
$99. 2 high
Trying to listen to some racking music on Spotify. I could bring up SoundCloud or Pandora as well, I guess,
for the world's largest 18-volt
but
tool
just
system.
stay inside of the brake cables there.
Ryobi Day savings in store
Okay,
or online
feather
at the
that.
Home Depot. More saving, more doing. Valid through June 20th at participating
Okay,
stores.
or enter,
Based on STEM pack style
delete,
batteries. See store for details and product exclusions.
select none.
Research
Let's
says
zoom out a
synergy
little bit, and
gasoline
you
is
can see
meticulously
that we got a
engineered to help
nice
protect your engine from
nice
deposits
cut
and
out there
improve gas
now.
mileage.
So
Research is how I
come in
have
here
fun.
and let's hit
Exxon
the
Mobil.
water
Energy lives here. Fuel economy claims are compared with gasoline meeting minimum government
between the
standards.
spokes of the tires. Now if we zoom back out, you can see these spokes are hard to see in some
If this were
spots.
just any car,
Like right here, this spoke, we could probably get rid of it, but we want to try to keep them as often as possible. So you can see where it kind of turns gold versus the green. Just kind of connect it like that.
Only at your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer.
We're going to feather that as well, especially with the spokes. You want to feather it.
Unlimited mileage warranty for up to 5 years.
We're going to do the
Special
same thing on
financing
this
offers
side.
Available through Mercedes-Benz Financial Services.
See your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer.
You always want to try to zoom back out to get perspective. If you're not sure 100% what you're cutting through, just zoom out a little bit for that perspective, and you can see we still got our spoke there. Right here we've got like a triangle shape of spokes. So we'll just stay along the edge here. Same thing, select feather. There's a lot of repetitious stuff right here, but kind of stay inside here. But the more meticulous you are, the more detailed and the more realistic it'll look. It'll add to the illusion that they are in fact jumping out of a photo. So whatever, you know, if you choose to put a background behind it, that'll show. Once again, feather, delete. We didn't really get all of it there, but that's okay. Do the same thing right here. Kind of have a spoke there. It's hard to see. Feather. We don't have to feather by 5 pixels each time, but in this case I'm choosing to do so because let's just go around. Everywhere we see green, we'll just go right to the inside of it. Because 5 pixels is plenty. I mean, with this large of a picture, not many people are going to zoom in that far to actually take a look. We might even get rid of this little section right here between the exhaust pipe and the engine, it looks like. Once again, feather, delete, come over here to the spokes, and I'm going to once again zoom out. See, we can kind of distinguish there's a clear spoke right here between the chains. The rest of them won't really matter. We're definitely going to keep that one in there though. Feather it, delete it, again on the other side. Stay as close. You want to stay just inside the actual body frame of the bike here, so that when you feather it, it doesn't take too much away. Again, down here, we've got the spoke right through here. I think my mouse got stuck there a little bit. It's okay. Select feather, delete. Same thing on this side. Select feather, delete. Again on this side. Here we can kind of see the spoke where the black is. And I'm going to zoom out. You can control and zoom your mouse while you can see the spoke comes across here and here. So we're definitely going to maintain this spoke right here. Coming just inside, feather in a selection, and we're going to go ahead and delete. Same right here, we got a little triangle space. Triangular, I should say. Okay, delete that. Let's maintain this spoke here. And it looks like we have one coming across. Feather it. We could actually drop our feather down at this point, but we'll just be consistent with it and maintain what we've got here. Feather that. Delete. So again, you can see we've got spokes here kind of coming across. Feather it. Delete it. Right here. We're actually going to connect right here, even though there may be another one in there. Feather. It's okay to get rid of the minuscule details. And that should do it for the water portion of those spokes. I'm going to Control-Shift-A to select none. And these spokes, you can tell, are pretty see-through at this point. So let's go ahead and bring these layers back. Let's take a look at this one right here on the left, because we haven't actually had an opportunity to look real close, see if there's anything that needs to be cut out. This one actually looks pretty good. This one looks pretty good. I don't think we missed anything here. And I don't think we missed anything on this one. Taking a second look, see that brake cable come out good there. So let's go ahead and zoom that back out. And let's bring back our other layers, minus the original. So now we've got an actual image kind of coming together here. We'll eventually merge these layers together, most likely. But before we do so, we want to maybe give it a little curve. Maybe we'll merge them together and kind of curve the image a little bit, and then add a shadow beneath it. So the first thing we're going to do is actually drop this border layer. We're going to drop this, merge this border layer down so that it's all one layer here. Now before we merge these down, yeah, let's go ahead and merge these down too. what we're going to do is actually merge visible layers instead of flatten image. And leave this expand as necessary, that's fine. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and save this right here. Save as. We're just going to call it Moto Cutout. Alright, so now that we've saved our progress, and if we bring our original image back, you can see there's a big difference now. I mean, in this one it's got water behind it, the sky. So what we want to do is actually create the illusion that this is actually a bent image a little bit. And in order to do that, we're going to use our perspective tool. So first things first, let's go over here to perspective tool and just click on the entire image. And we can transform it by moving things around like this here. Okay. We're just going to move these out a little bit. Move this out, move down. Try to maintain some proportion. And then see how we kind of brought the top in and then the bottoms down, and it creates almost like a wavy line on the edge here. Before we do that, let me cancel that. Before we do that, let's go ahead and right click and say alpha to selection so that we select everything that we see on this layer. And we're going to go ahead and use our perspective tool again, there it is. Just to get this section so that we're not grabbing the whole layer that we're not using. So we're just going to grab this selection, and I'm going to start with the bottom corners. Just kind of bringing them out a little bit, not too much. Try to stay right about the original base. Bring it out about the same on either side. And then at the top, we're going to go ahead and just bring it in a touch. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and say transform. So now it actually kind of gives the illusion that they're jumping out of an image. Now there's another option that we could use. I'm going to select none. Control Shift A. Oh, let me undo that. I had it. No, let me redo that. It's a floating layer. What we're going to do is actually two new layer. And then this layer is going to have nothing on it now. It's basically a blank layer. So this is our new perspective cutout right here. Let me bring up my screen again. It tried to go to sleep on me here. So now we have our image popping out like this. And I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to say layer to image size. We're going to bring our other one back. You can see how it actually changed the perspective so it doesn't line up 100% anymore with the original one. That's okay. That's kind of what we were going for. And that's how you create basically a photo coming to life. We could do plenty more with this. We could take this image here and we could cut out the bottom portion, and I'm just going to show you for the purpose of this tutorial. If you wanted to add some more dynamic elements to it, we're going to come right about here, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the feather edges on this. But see how we've selected all this? I'm going to bring this down. I don't want to actually expand from center. I should not have selected that. So I'm going to bring this down right about to here. Bring this down right about to here. And I'm going to say cut. And let me just invert the selection. Let's say delete. Select none. So if we wanted to give it a little bit more dynamics, we could do this and just have the picture spill out on the sides as well. But we're not going to do that. I'm actually going to undo both of those just to maintain our original layer. Select none. Hide the original. We can add anything that we want now. We can create our own sky. We can actually add this to a different background. Whatever we want to do with it. Go ahead and save this again, since we've already saved it as what we want. And I'm going to actually export this as a ping image so that we can use it for something else. Motocutout.png, portable network graphic. You can save it as a JPEG for more details, but then you won't have your transparent background. It'll give it like a white or a black. So we're just going to save this as motocutout.ping. Okay, so if we wanted to actually add that to another image, say we had another photo that we wanted to use. Let me go back in here. I'm going to file open. I don't know if we have another photo in here. Photos. Pretty sure I just downloaded a photo. Here we go. This is actually one that I was going to use. But say we wanted to make this a background. This is another photo from Pixabay. I was going to use this one and actually cut out each of these birds, which would have made this tutorial really long, but I thought it was cool because if we took our photo right around here, you know, and then just kind of had her standing outside of the photograph, and then maybe grab some birds. We could have even done a bigger photograph, something like this. And just kind of had her popping out of the photograph and then had the birds in the background. Maybe even grabbed a cloud or two. That would have been nice. But let me select none. Let me say we want to add this photo. I can go File, Open as Layers. And we can go back into that folder that we just saved it to. And open this photo up on top of it. So just to give you an idea, we can add a photo to another photo. We can actually scale this down and say we're putting this photograph in her arms. And you could do this with any kind of photo. Reset. I'm going to link this up right here. Then I'm just going to hide this for a second and scale this down. Move it over. Let's just say we're putting it up here. Make it roughly photo size compared to her. Like it's maybe between our fingers, I don't know, something. Let's scale that and bring that back into visibility. So now we have, she's got a three-dimensional kind of pop-out photo. I should have grabbed an image of somebody holding something. But so now it looks like she's holding a photograph that's kind of coming to life here. We can even scale that. We can even scale that a little bit more there. Make it a little bit more photo-sized. Use our move tool. We can even just put this on the ground like it's a photo that's on the wing. And there you have it. So now we have a three-dimensional photo. We could just add a shadow behind it. And that's something, you know what, let's go ahead and do that. I'm not going to save this image here. I'm going to go back in here and show you how to create a shadow for this. This layer actually has nothing on it now. So we can get rid of that one. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Right click, just delete. We're going to take this layer here and we're going to add a shadow. So let's come up here and say, there's a couple of ways to do this. I could duplicate it, or I can use the filters and go to light and shadow and just do a drop shadow. Leave the default if you want. And then I'll kind of add a little shadow underneath it.
And for proven success, you can't pick better plans.
But it's also going to add a shadow behind these guys here. So if we were to say add a white background,
only at the Home Depot. More saving.
I'm going to create a new layer real quick. And actually, I'm just going to create a white layer. And there you go, you can kind of see the shadow behind it.
Carrabba's Italian Grill. People always seem to be saying, wow, especially now, because you
let me
can
just
take
undo both of these real quick. There's another way to create a shadow. Is just to select this layer, duplicate the layer, and then I'm going to go ahead and drag this new layer down beneath the one that we just duplicated. I'm going to say alpha to selection, right click, alpha to selection. I'm going to grow that selection, select, grow. I'm going to grow it by like 10 pixels. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and say select feather. Feather it by 5, that's fine. I'm going to reverse the white and the black. Take my paint bucket tool, my fill tool, and I'm going to go down here and say fill whole selection. Just click in there, and if I hide the top layer, you can see it basically just did that. Next thing we want to do is blur. Filters, blur, Gaussian blur. And right here you can see a little preview of our blur. And I'm going to come down here and say blur by about 50. That may be a bit much. No, that's good. Say OK. Now I'm going to do another thing. I'm going to lower the opacity of that layer a little bit. I'm going to grab my move tool. I'm going to select none. And I'm going to make sure I have this layer selected. And I'm just going to click on it and use my arrows on my keyboard. Go down 1, 2, 3, 4. Come over 1, 2. Go down. You know, just kind of figure out where I want the shadow at. There we go. So now we got a shadow below the photo layer. And if we don't want shadow behind the motorcyclist here, I'm going to grab my eraser tool with a nice soft brush. I'm going to go with 0.25 hardness, and I'm going to bring the size up to, I don't know, 140 or so, something like that. I'm going to say apply jitter. We don't need much. I'm going to bring it up probably about 1 point something, 1.3 or so. And then I'm just going to come around the edges. I'm going to hold down, come around the edges, get rid of these guys, get rid of their shadows. I'm just going to leave the shadow underneath the photograph itself, kind of coming around this corner here, giving the illusion that is popping out. Okay. There we go. The next thing I want to do is maybe now we can create a separate shadow for this guy up here, and kind of give it some perspective, like it's laying down on the ground. But I think that's good right there. We can leave it like that. We could have curled up the images of the photo as well. But that should give you a general idea of how to create your own image, starting with our original here. I'm going to go ahead and hide these layers. There's our shadow, what's left of it. There's our original image. This is what we started at. And this is what we have now. So there you have it. You got a photograph that's kind of coming to life, so to speak. You want to create a background, you want to create some clouds or something. We've got different brushes we can use for that if you select your brush tool. I've downloaded some fire brushes, some cloud brushes. I think my cloud brushes are a little lower down. There's chalk, there's my clouds right here. So say we want to add some clouds in here, and you can kind of adjust the size. I'm going to create a new layer right above our original. I'm going to say transparency. And I'm going to start putting some clouds in here. Let's choose a color. Let's choose like a skyish blue color. Maybe a little bit more towards the white end. Just some bluish clouds up here. And I'm going to increase the size of my brush. There we go. And just go ahead and click. Happy little cloud lives here and here and here and here. And then we'll choose a different cloud a little higher up in the sky. Maybe we can choose a different color. Just offset this color a little bit. Maybe we'll go with like a grayish cloud. And I'll choose a different color for that as well. Increase the size of the brush so we have some bigger kind of storm clouds out here. We can even put a couple like right on top of that layer as well. So we'll go to our transform layer, create a new layer, and say OK. There we go. Choose a few different types of clouds, and I'm going to go with a little bit more of a bluish grayish color again. There we go. And on this top layer, I'll put maybe 1 or 2 right here. There we go. Choose yet another cloud and put a few more in there. Maybe change the lightness of it. And give it a little bit more white. There we go. Just throw them in there as well. And so now we have a little bit of a dynamic image, some clouds in the front, some clouds in the back. We could probably use another one right here that's kind of a little bit different size. Bring the size down. There we go. Just some fluffy clouds here and there. Happy little bush lives here. I miss Bob Ross. Such a good artist. And so now that adds a little bit more depth to our image, a little bit more a third dimension, if you will. And if we cover over our layer right here, we could just go ahead and delete, take our eraser and just kind of delete that. We're going to go back to our thinner hardness brush. We're going to bring the size down and just kind of start coming in here and getting rid of the cloud where it touches him, so that it doesn't look like he's behind the clouds so much. And just kind of dab in here and dab in there. A little dab here, a little dab there. We're going to go over each of our bikers. Make sure they don't have clouds in front of their face because they're obviously not jumping that high. Again, we're on our top layer here to make sure that we're not messing with the clouds that are behind them or the actual layer that they're sitting on here. Come over here and do the same thing. Just make sure that there's no clouds covering their bike. This one had some. We're just tapping, just dabbing, you know. Try to keep it clean. We can also add to the crispness, and you can see the feathered edges on these guys when we're zoomed in this close. Versus this guy did not have feathered edges, so you can kind of see the difference. Could have gone back and fixed that, but we're just going to go ahead and make sure that we don't have any clouds for the time being. And zoom back out. And so now there's a little bit more depth to our image. If you wanted to go a little further with it, we could say add an element to this layer here. Just add a new layer. Just create a new layer real quick. We're going to put this below our first cloud layer. And then we're going to take our colors over here and just kind of create some sky colors. Not the same ones that we used for the clouds, but maybe a little bit brighter, a little bit more blue than that. Something like that there. And then for the top layer, we're going to click on this same color that we just created. And then we're just going to add a little bit more value to the, a little bit of darkness, a little bit more blue, just a little bit more saturation, maybe a little bit more blue than that, slight bit more green, maybe a little bit of red even. And we're just going to take these two colors, we're going to take our gradient tool here, and we're going to do a little bit of a, maybe a bilinear blend here. And we'll just take this and go ahead and start from one end of the sky, go to the other. There we go. So now we got a sky in the background with some nice clouds back there. We could actually cut the sky off right here. Let's take our select tool and you know, we can maybe add a cutout right in here. Looks like my phone's about to die. That's unfortunate. We can add a little cutout right in here. Take our select tool and just take this portion of it. And what we're doing is we need to make sure we have the correct mode on here. Okay, my phone giving me an alert. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's feather our selection. This time we're going to feather it by about 15. We're just going to say delete so that our sky doesn't abruptly end. Let's undo that. Let's undo the feather as well, and let's actually give it a much larger feather, something like 50. Now if we hit delete again, you can see our sky kind of starts to fade. We'll select none. Actually, let's leave our selection there for a minute. Maybe we could put some earthy tones in. So See, GIMP is a nice tool. If you just play with it, you'll find that you can do quite a bit. We're gonna do like a lightish brown kind of. I'm playing with the values here a little bit. Maybe a little lighter than that. Bring the saturation down some. And then we're gonna do another tone in the back here. We're gonna do something kind of grayish, but like a grayish brownish. There we go. Let's increase the saturation slightly. Lighten up the value a little bit. Okay, like a tannish brown. And we're going to do the same thing that we did with our gradient tool for the sky. We may go up this time, and if you hold down the control key and do it, it'll actually maintain a straight line. There we go. And you can see that it's still feathered, so it kind of comes together. It's a large feather section, but it's still feathered there. But if we wanted to match these tones here, we could do that. Let's take a new selection. Let's come in here with a new selection and go right around this area. Just right around here. Let's go ahead and take our eyedropper tool and try to match some of these dirt tones here. There's one of them. Take our second color and take our eyedropper tool and just match some of these earthy tones. Maybe we'll get another one. No, that's good. We're going to do the same thing using our gradient tool. We're going to go ahead and come up, holding the control key down, keep it straight. We'll just do like that there. Select none. Let's undo that. What we forgot to do with our selection was actually feather it again. And we're going to keep the 50 aspect ratio there. Do the same thing. Come up. We can add yet another layer. Select none if we wanted to. But you can see how it kind of brings the image together. Maybe we should have added a little water layer in here, right in here. We're gonna come right between these two lines here. We're gonna feather that selection. We're gonna come in here with our eyedropper tool and grab some of our water tones, some of the green. Same with the back. Grab some of our water tones, maybe some of this bluish right here. Let's start with the bluish at the bottom. Again with our gradient tool. And this time we're actually going to go with a linear. Starting from the bottom, coming up. And that gives us a little bit of our water tones there. Select none. And you can see our cloud starts to blend with the horizon back here. So we've got a nice little dynamic image out of a pop-out photograph. Really simple to do with GIMP. You can download some cloud brushes just by searching GIMP cloud brushes in Google. They're free. And we've got some fire brushes, and there's also some grass brushes I've got in here. Some cracks. But you can still play with this image here. Say we wanted to add a little bit more to the ground portion, we could do that. We could take our smudge tool and kind of just let's take a bristle brush, or we can take a brush that kind of looks, maybe this galaxy brush even, or the oils brush, and you can just kind of come in here, change the size a little bit. Let's actually use a something like this for the rocks if you wanted to. It's actually a grass brush. Let's come in here and just look at our brushes and see what's going to give us a desired effect. Maybe we want to place some rocks in or something. Yeah, I think one of these bristle brushes would probably be the best bet for that. Let's undo that smudge there. Instead of the smudge, maybe we'll just use our brush. Let's make sure that we have the right color selected. Looks like our rocks are going to be a little bit of a lighter version of this. We can actually use our paint or our eyedropper tool and just grab some of these whiter rock colors and drop some of them in. There's quite a few more rocks on this side than there is this side. Let's go ahead and grab another rock color with our eyedropper tool. Here's a darker rock here. And let's grab a little bit of a different brush. Well, actually, let's just change the size of this one a little bit. Make it a little bit smaller or a little bigger. Make it a little smaller. And just kind of throw some of these in here.
It's Ryobi days at the
A few
Home
more
Depot,
on this
where
side.
the best prices on Ryobi
We're actually going to
tools
come in on
come
this
into play.
trail
Like a Ryobi 1 Plus battery kit
quite a
2-pack,
bit
just
more right in
$99
this section.
2 high-performance batteries, a charger, bag.
We're going to come in
plus
on
your
this
choice
trail
of a
here,
free select cordless
and we can
Ryobi
kind
1
of
Plus
create the
tool
tire
from the
tracks. In
world's
fact, I'm
largest
sure there's
18-volt
a
tool system.
there's a
And you
specific
can't beat
brush for
free.
that.
Ryobi Day Savings.
But in this
store
case,
or
we're
online
just
at the Home
going
Depot.
to
More saving, more doing. Valid through June 20th at participating stores. Claim based on STEM pack style batteries. See store for details and product exclusions.
Hey guys,
Maybe
whether
this,
you're built like a power forward
this
or a
cell
power
brush.
lifter, there's one clothing store
One of these
that's
cell
built to
brushes
fit you,
here,
DXL.
charcoal or cell.
While
Or,
most stores might go up to size XL. That's
let's go ahead and
where we
use a
begin,
cell
with
brush.
A huge selection of famous brands like
Let's
Lacoste,
grab that color,
Levi's, Brooks
which I
Brothers,
believe we
and
pretty
more.
much already have
So
anyway,
finding
but let's
clothes
grab a
that
little bit
look
darker
great
version
and
of
fit
it.
even better is
And let's
never
just go ahead and
a
come in
hassle.
here,
Stop by one of our 200
bring our
plus
brush size
DXL
down a little
stores or
bit,
shop
and bring it up.
destinationxl.com. Built to fit, built XL, DXL.
A little bit
Are
further
you
down.
afraid of the
We can
dark?
also use the
I
bracket
mean,
keys
another
to
night
do this.
lost to
But
bad
I'm
sleep.
just going to throw in
Tempur-Pedic knows
little
how to conquer
spots
the
here and
dark. It
there
adapts precisely to
where
your
it looks
body,
like
so
the
you
tracks are
sleep
coming
deeper
through.
and
I'll fill them in a little
longer.
bit
Save up to
thicker where they're
$700 on select adjustable
concentrated.
mattress sets during our Memorial
Bring the
Day
brush
sale.
size
Learn more at
down,
Tempur-Pedic.com.
way down, and just kind of fill in these little tracks. And then we have the illusion of some kind of tire tracks and cracks, and we're just gonna kind of follow the flow of the image here. Again, we're just creating an illusion. We're gonna go back to our other brush. I think it was an oil brush or something for the, or a bristle brush for the rocks. Here we're gonna grab quite a few more. We're gonna keep the size small on this. I'm just gonna use my bracket keys. Increase the size a little bit, and we're going to create a little cluster of rocks right in here. Let's go ahead and use our eyedropper tool and grab yet another rock color, like this one here. I'm just going to plop a few more in this section, kind of maintaining the theme of the image. Go ahead and bring the size up again. Let's throw some bigger ones and some smaller ones. Put some out here maybe. Put a few over here, not many. Some bigger ones. A little bit smaller ones as we get further back. Okay. One more rock color here, I think. Let's move our window. Select another rock color, maybe this darker brownish. Come back in, grab another bristle type, or let's see if we can find another decent. No, this is like a vegetation thing. We could probably use that. Let's try the splats texture. Just throw some of these in here too. Bring it down a little bit for this. Again, I'm using the bracket keys. Bring it up for the foreground. I'm just throwing these in here and there, you know, let them overlap a little bit, bring it down for the further out sections. Throw some smaller ones in here as well. So there we go. We've got a little illusion. I'm going to come across the top here with a smudge tool, and I'm just going to use a standard, maybe a 2.5 brush, and bring the size up just a touch, and I'm going to just run along this line here. Just short little strokes along, and we're going behind a photograph with this. Just short little strokes, kind of blend it in. Maybe pull it up some. Oh, I'm gonna undo that. It's too much. Bring the water down a little bit. Just some small short strokes. Just kind of create the illusion of a jagged shoreline, sort of. Bring it down a little further on this side. Just short little strokes here. Again, we're gonna do the same thing over here, but kind of go out to the side. Maybe leave a little peninsula right there. Happy little bush lives here. Gosh, Bob Ross, what a guy. I'm gonna bring this up a little bit, kind of where the rocks kind of go up and meet. And I might grab a little bit of a lighter. See if I can grab that color there. Just a little bit of that color there. And I'm gonna come in with a just a regular brush, and I'm going to use the same brush, bring the size of this down just a little bit, and just kind of start throwing a little bit of this in here. Doesn't have to be perfect. Come across a little bit with it. I'm going to undo those last two strokes. Those were a bit long. That should be good. I'm going to just do a touch here. Undo that. A little long. There we go. Just a touch. I'm going to take a little bit of this grass layer. Let me go back to my smudge tool real quick and just kind of blend this in a little bit here. Drag this out a little bit. Just kind of blend it together there. Same over here. Just drag it a little bit. Bring the water over top of it some. Just enough there. We're going to come in here and grab our grass color with our eyedropper tool. And just a touch of it there. There we go. A little bit of the lighter green. I'm actually going to grab a second grass color. Zoom in. Let's see if we can grab. There we go. There's another grass color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my grass brush. Again, that's something that you can download. Where did I have the grass brushes? They're up a little bit. Clouds. Confetti. Grass should be right in here below the cracks. Right, there we go. We got one grass brush here. And what we're going to do is just kind of bring the size of this way down. And just kind of dab it in here a little bit with our first grass color. And then we're going to put our lighter grass color over top of it. This is a lot like oil painting, I guess. Let's just zoom in a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Oh, I've got the smudge tool selected. Let me use a brush. And we're going to bring our size down just a little bit more, so kind of just a little bit of grass in here. We're not putting much, just a little bit. Let's go to this side and just add just a little bit, kind of finish the look. And then we're going to switch out our color for the lighter green and just basically adding highlights here, giving the illusion, creating the illusion of grass. I'm going to zoom back out, and what we're going to do is grab our smudge tool once again. We're probably going to let's grab our 0.25 brush, and let's bring our brush size up just a touch, and just give it a couple little pulls. So we're going to almost make it look a bit like an oil painting behind the original photograph. So it's an interesting look. Something just like that there. Don't need much to create an effect. And you can see we've got both of our colors kind of blending in a little bit. It's clearer in the picture, which is what we want. And that's going to kind of complete our illusion there. And one more thing we might want to do with the water is go ahead and grab the wake colors. That whitish, not completely white, it's just whitish. And we're going to use our brush again and just throw some of these colors in here. Just throw them in there. Let's see if we can find, maybe we'll even use one of the cloud bristles to create that effect. Or maybe one of the splash. Let's come back up here and use one of our cloud bristles. and just kind of create some splashes in here. Let's bring this up a little bit and just kind of throw them in here and there. We're going to change our pattern a little bit. Here we've got some clouds out in the distance, or some wake out in the distance. We got a lot more by the shore here, and just some in the. Let's lower the brush size a little bit for these out here. Definitely got more up front, and let's choose a different pattern here. Make this a little bigger. Just throw them in there, you know. Just kind of pick some different spots to throw them in along the rocks here, splashing in. We're going to bring it down, the size down a little bit for these splashes out here. I'm going to choose one more maybe. And create just smaller little splashes out here. And a few of these in the front, along the shoreline. Bring the size down a little bit. Create some more out here. There we go. And we're actually going to smudge these too, because it's a bit of an oil painting, as it were. Really kind of didn't intend for it to end up this way, but that's what happens when you get creative. Get some ideas, and you never know where it's going to take you, really. I'm just gonna do slight little pulls on this. Again, it's an oil painting, so just some slight little pulls. Kind of pulling to the side to give the illusion of water. Up for the illusion of sky. And some Bob Ross tricks there. There we go. Pull to the side for water. Up for clouds and sky. Just some slight little pulls here. There we go. And that'll give us the illusion of some waves. We want to grab these. Just pull them out just a little bit there. And that'll give our illusion of waves. And we might just grab this and pull this down a little bit here, just to kind of blend these together. Again, to the side for the water, just have some of this coming out. Maybe that's a little bit of rock jutting out or something. You don't want to do it too much, just enough. Like right here, we got a nice little section of waves there. Okay. In our photograph, the waves go up a little higher. But let's go ahead and save this again. And we're going to save this one as cut out oil. And we're going to do the same thing when we export it. Cut out, and just add oil at the end. Export that. So now we should have a nice little image going here. We probably should have smudged up these rocks some, so let's go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to bring the size of this brush up a bit. We're just going to pull up and pull down, just pull different directions. Looks like these are kind of coming out to the side, these are kind of coming down. Something like that. We want to keep the consistency. So we've got our rocks in here, and leave the foreground rocks a little bit clearer than the background. Just smudge it in there. It's an oil painting of some sorts. Make sure we get all of them so that it doesn't have inconsistency. It's almost like the picture is transitioning to an oil painting. It's exactly what we were going for. Just click this, get it out of the way. There we go. Hey, how's it going, Michael? How do you pronounce that? Michael Mashuzak. Nice to meet you, buddy. Thanks for joining the program. Basically, I'm going to show you what we did here. We started with an original picture off of Pixabay, and we kind of added, we cut it out, made it look like it was a photo painting, or a photo where it was coming to life. These guys were popping out of it. And so what we did is we created that cutout, added a little perspective to it. And then we added some clouds to the background. We have two layers of clouds. We have some behind the bikers and some in the foreground here. And then we went ahead and created a little oil painting out of it. So there you have it. That's pretty much all there is for this broadcast. I appreciate you joining the stream there. We had Amershow on Twitch and Michael on YouTube. Appreciate you guys joining and saying hello in the chat there. This video will be available on Twitch as well as YouTube and Stream.me. If you're interested in seeing the process, you can fast forward through parts or pause parts to see exactly how this effect was achieved. From the original, I'm going to bring the original to the top here so you can see. This is what we started as, and then this is what we ended up with. Almost like a three-dimensional image coming to life with a little oil painting in the background to fill in the details. So I hope you enjoyed watching. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I save my work again here. And we exported it already. But appreciate you joining the stream to check it out. And for those who missed the stream, you can see it. I'll probably put a rerun on Twitch as well. The Twitch channel will be TunnelRat327. The YouTube channel is Jerokiah Dar, all one word. And the Stream.me channel is also TunnelRat327. Thanks for joining. Be sure to follow or subscribe, and I'll have some more streams coming soon.